Truth and Mystery with your host, Dr. Douglas James Cottrell. We are journeying together through the deeper meanings behind today's world events, ancient wisdom, and the quiet whispers of the divine. We're going to reflect, remember, and reconnect. If this is your first time with us, welcome to the family. Make sure to follow us and ring that bell, check those checks, and click on that link to subscribe wherever you're watching and listening from wherever you are in the world. This show isn't just a broadcast. It's a broadcast with intention, with spirit, and with love. Now, here is Douglas.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight once again. It's a very important time in our lives as we go through tonight. It's the celebration of Martin Luther King. It's a day to remember a great man, a movement, and a time in our most recent past that changed the world. Dr. King was a Baptist minister and the foremost leader of the civil rights movement, whose advocacy for equality, justice, and dignity brought profound reforms to America and inspired movements around the world. Today we remember him not with the mere nostalgia, but with deep intention, to understand the spiritual power of passive resistance and why nonviolence works even when the forces of violence appear dominant. Dr. King's life, his teachings, and ultimately his willingness to lay down his life were never about defeat. They were the fulcrum of moral awakening in the face of entrenched brutality. In his time, and I watched it on TV myself, the system of segregation and racial violence oppressed millions. It did not bulge. It did not inflame the rhetoric, public opinion, or fear. It was only when individuals like Dr. King and countless others, I might add, embraced nonviolent direct action, acts that force society to see for itself the minority of injustice, those that mirrored injustice, the real change began to happen. His famous words echo into eternity. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Now let's reflect a little bit, because as we watch the world grapple with ongoing conflict today, nation against nation, power chasing power, and leaders talking of threats, interference, and the reshaping of global war, if not global order, we are reminded that the struggle for justice never, ever truly ends. Here's a thoughtful and inspirational thought that draws a clear and powerful connection between another great leader, Mahatma Gandhi. Both he and Dr. Martin Luther King emphasized their shared belief in peaceful resistance as a divine force for global transformation. Mahatma Gandhi, like Dr. King, believed that nonviolence was not weakness, but spiritual strength in action. With nothing more than a handful of salt, think of this, with nothing more than a handful of salt and unwavering spiritual soul force, Gandhi challenged the British Empire through peaceful civil disobedience, inspiring millions of Indians to rise without weapons, anger, or revenge. The Salt March of 1930, in which Gandhi and his followers walked 240 miles to the Arabian Sea to collect the salt in defiance of British law, became a sacred symbol of resistance, not through war, but through will. His success in achieving India independence showed the world that Satyagraha, truth force or soul force, was mightier than any sword. A man with a handful of salt defeated the imperial British government. And that was something, if you're not aware of it now, it's like anything you can imagine. One man standing with a handful of salt taking on the British Empire. Dr. King deeply studied Mahatma Gandhi's methods and adopted them into the American Civil Rights Movement, calling Gandhi the guiding light of our technique of nonviolent social change. Both men faced imprisonment, ridicule, and ultimately assassination. But their light did not go out. It passed into the hearts of those who believe that justice without violence is not only possible, but divinely ordained. Today in 2026, there are headlines suggesting tensions between governments, geopolitics that flirt dangerously with aggression, and global alliances shifting away from old economic order towards alternatives based on self-interest. I would even add greed. These are political patterns that reflect a deeper spiritual question. When power becomes the goal, what happens to peace? Dr. King understood this well. On the eve of his assassination, he took his prophetic voice beyond segregation into critique of materialism, economic exploitation, and injustice at home and abroad, insisting that peaceful change was not only possible, but necessary. And here's the paradox. The world sees violence fueling more violence. Yet the only true answer to that spiral is the transformation of the human heart. Dr. King demonstrated that nonviolence is not passive weakness. It's active moral power, a force that turns opponents into conscious bystanders, into allies, and injustice into movement. His sacrifice did not end racial or inequity, but it changed the trajectory of those struggles and opened the way for laws, rights, and movements that followed, including disability rights and other expressions of human dignity. Remember, they faced brutality, personal ridicule, and ultimately they were willing to give their lives for the movement. These indeed were saintly men, and through their efforts of nonviolence, they achieved success. Now, today, while the world watches borders, economics, currencies, Bitcoin perhaps, and alliances shift, with nations questioning old military strategies and people grappling with fear about identity, autonomy, and global order, the deeper spiritual task remains exactly the same. How do we, as souls in embodiment, resist injustice without repeating the violence we oppose? Nonviolence isn't only about protest, it's about presence, clarity, truth spoken with courage, and the audacity of love. Resisting injustice without becoming it is the key. How do we as souls in embodiment resist injustice without repeating the violence we oppose? This is one of the most important spiritual questions of our time, my friends. We invite your comments in the chat tonight. Let us know how you feel as souls embodied in this physical world resist without repeating violence ourselves. You may also send us an email to thesoulreportlive@gmail.com. Oz, the co-producer, is in the studio, and he will take your questions and we'll put them here on air. Remember, this is one of the most important spiritual questions of our time. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Have you had a spiritual movement, inspiration? Let us know. Share it on the show tonight. Our audience is worldwide. And remember, history shows us that injustice often survives not only because of those who wield it, but because resistance itself can become contaminated by the very spirit it seeks to overthrow. When anger hardens into hatred, when fear turns into dehumanization, and when righteousness becomes self-justification, the cycle simply continues. Now, new oppressors replacing old ones. This is not the way. This cycle has to be broken. This karmic change has to come into the world, not by repeating violence with violence. Might does not make right. But to resist injustice as a soul embodiment means remembering that we are not just reacting bodies of political identities. We are conscious beings, temporarily clothed in flesh, called to act from a deeper source. For the goodness of your soul, don't block the flows of your own prosperity by putting hate in front of you. Don't put a block in front of another block and resist all the wonderful and amazing prosperous things that will come to you through the spiritual level. Opening your heart, attempting to resist actively for the good and for the self-righteousness of being loved and a loving being, then you are on the pathway to a greater understanding. This is where nonviolence reveals its true depth. Nonviolence is not merely the absence of physical harm, it is an inner discipline. It begins long before the protest sign is lifted or the march begins. It begins in the heart, in the refusal to allow hatred to take root. Even when you're wronged or hurt, remember the great souls that we honor in the past, the great beings who have come into the world to show us the way. All of them, repeat, all of them suffered the indignities of Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi and others in our current time. Nonviolence is presence, the ability to stay awake, grounded, and human in moments designed to provoke us into losing ourselves. It is choosing not to disassociate, not to numb out, and not to surrender our consciousness into chaos. You know, when everyone else is losing their head, keep calm and carry on. Don't get caught up. Don't put yourself in harm's way. Don't allow the adrenaline to flow and anger to rise inside of you. You are shunning and putting a block right here in your solar plexus that is preventing prosperity to come to you. Nonviolence is clarity. Seeing injustice clearly without exaggeration or denial. It requires naming wrongs honestly, without distorting the truth to serve your own ego or your tribe. Clarity becomes what you are. It is something that you seek not to be blind or a blind follower of an ideology, but instead the servants of the truth. This is a spiritual testing time. Edgar Cayce said it, from 68 to 98, it would be a teaching or testing time. He might have been out a few decades or so, but this is a time of chaos that has been predicted by Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce, Ross Peterson, Paul Solomon, myself. Nonviolence is truth spoken with courage, not shouted to humiliate, not whispered to appease, but spoken plainly, firmly, and compassionately. This kind of truth unsettles systems of oppression because it exposes them without mirroring their cruelty. This teaching or testing time is for you, my friends. Don't allow yourself to be triggered. Don't watch those social media posts and become angry, where a few minutes ago you were calm. If that happens to you, say, hold on, stop. I just got triggered. I can feel the anger. You've seen something on TV, some violence, some terrible oppression against children or other weak people, you're not there. If it's beyond your fingertips, you're not there. That means you don't become in the moment and allow that negativity, if I can call it that, affect your peace. Nonviolence and being able to keep your peace is what you're striving for. That's my message tonight. Do you agree with me? Send me your comments in the chat or send us an email at thesoulreportlive@gmail.com. Love to hear about it. Finally, nonviolence basically is a demonstration of love. Love is audacious because it refuses to cooperate with despair. It insists on seeing humanity even in those who act in humanity, not to excuse them, but to refuse to become like them. That's your spiritual discipline. Do not become like those who are inhumane to others. Do not excuse them, but refuse to become like them. Love is the most dangerous force to those who perform injustice because it cannot be controlled. It cannot be bought, nor can it be intimidated. When Mahatma Gandhi marched for salt, when King marched for dignity, they were not asking permission to be free. They were demonstrating freedom in the moment. They showed the world that moral authority does not come from weapons, wealth, or dominance, but from the alignment with truth. So the question is not only how do we resist injustice, the deeper question is this: who are we becoming while we resist it? Ask yourself that. If we can oppose injustice while remaining present, clear, truthful, and loving, then we've won. And then we do more than stop oppression. We transform the moral atmosphere of the world, as did Mahatma Gandhi, as did Martin Luther King Jr., as those who have gone before them and who have followed. This is how revolutions of the soul outlast revolutions of force. Do you have a question for me? Again, email thesoulreportlive@gmail.com or click on the chat and let us know your questions. We have an extraordinary guest tonight, as usual. His name is Dr. Matt Welsh. He is a clinical psychologist, media creator, and founder of Spiritual Media Blog, a space for spirituality, psychology, and inspirational entertainment that explores how humans find meaningful purpose. We're going to talk to him in a few moments, but let's take a short break. We'll be right back after this with Dr. Matt Walsh.
Are you searching for clarity, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of the spiritual world around you? Meet Douglas James Cottrell, PhD, a visionary author and teacher who's helped countless people transform their lives. His books are a gateway to profound insights, offering guidance, inspiration, and the tools you need to unlock your full potential. From unlocking your intuition to discovering spiritual truths, Douglas's books are your trusted companions on the path to personal growth. Don't wait. Start your journey today. Visit his website douglasjamescottrell.com to explore and purchase his life-changing work. Your next breakthrough is just a page away.
Welcome back, everyone. Again, our special guest tonight is Dr. Matt Walsh. His journey began from practicing law, and he went into psychology and spiritual media that reflects the same kind of courageous pivot that Dr. King advocated. The courage to follow truth and purpose, even when things run counter to comfort or expression and expectation. His work invites audiences to explore inner life, meaning, consciousness, with the stories we tell to heal ourselves and the world. He's here tonight to help us. It's welcome to the show, my friend. How do you start off being a lawyer and end up being a psychologist and life coach? Welcome to the show.
thank you so much, Douglas, for having me. And I wish I could tell you that I planned this out and I could give a straight path for this, but my soul and spirit took me on a bit of a circuitous journey. I started off with good intentions, wanting to be a lawyer. I wanted to help people. I was interested in it. And initially, I was interested in movies and books, people like yourself creating spiritual content. So I actually started off at a entertainment agency out in Hollywood, a place called William Morris Agency, and realized that that was not a good environment for me. I wanted to be more directly involved with people's lives. So then I moved back to my hometown in Indianapolis and started working for Department of Child Services, trying to help abused and neglected children find a safe place to live.
Wow.
So that was definitely meaningful work. I think my heart was in the right place, but it really just kind of weighed deeply on my soul, like trying to figure out where these children should be placed or if they should be removed from families or not. So I thought maybe I'll try private practice and got into family law, helping people with divorces, child custody issues, parenting time, and stuff like that. So it was pretty heavy stuff. People going through pretty difficult transitions in their life, and after a while, I just realized, the law was not for me. I didn't like the adversarial nature of it. There was a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of paperwork, a lot of analytical thinking, which helped me develop good skills. But what I really wanted to realize was helping people on a deeper emotional, spiritual, psychological level. And I remember there was one man who was coming for custody purposes, and this guy he had lived a pretty rough life, been in and out of jail, had tattoos all over his face, but he just broke down in tears because he was worried about getting custody of his daughter. And at that time, I just sort of took my lawyer hat off and I just listened to him. And at the end of that, he just said, thank you for listening to me. And, that felt better doing that than anything I had done as a lawyer. But, he's not paying me to do that. But that's kind of when it opened me up to realize, like, okay, I think I'm not going to be happy as a lawyer, but I might be happier, helping people on a deeper level.
Well, I listen. I didn't know that about you until you just told us that you've dealt with the forgotten minority, children in
Yeah.
abuse situations, handicapped children. When everybody talks about the budget and we have to have more money for this and teachers have to have more money. Well, the most vulnerable of our society are living on $500 a month on a disability check, or something like that. They're not allowed to, or can't afford services. So, my second question was going to be tonight. So you were, practicing man's law, being a lawyer, and now you're practicing God's law, the spirit of the law. But it goes beyond that, Matt. I mean, I know because I have some experience with handicap. I've been an advocate for handicapped children, especially, and it is a tough go. I guess I can say tonight's show about you know disobedience and a handful of salt and Martin Luther King talking about a peaceful revolution. It goes hand in hand with those little kids that are in trouble and those people who need a second chance, like this fellow with all the tattoos. That's where love and compassion comes in. That's where you change the world, you might agree. So I congratulate you on that. And you were 29 when you became, well, like, I'm not going to ask you how old you are now, but you look like you're maybe 31 or something.
That's so
So,
kind. That's so kind. I don't mind. I'm from 44, but we can tell people I'm however old you want me to tell them.
okay, it's up to you. Uh, so anyway, the bottom line is you've been doing this for a while, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of tragedy is the word I'm looking for. And I'm glad you felt that motivation. Usually on the show, we meet people interesting like yourself, and there comes one event in their life that changes them. And I'm wondering if meeting this man who was a hardened criminal, worried about the thing he loved the most, losing custody of his child. I wonder if that was the thing that put you on the path.
It definitely helped me realize that I needed to switch careers. It was simultaneously one, I realized I'm not happy as a lawyer because, lawyers do great work and, there's people out there doing wonderful things, but it made me realize like what I wanted was to help this man on this deeper level, this emotional level, psychological level, help him process that pain, that grief, that sorrow. But I didn't know exactly how or what that meant. It still hadn't occurred to me to become a psychologist. I'd always been interested in spirituality, but I wasn't sure. I didn't want to start teaching them about spirituality. I wasn't trying to do anything at the time, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So it kind of opened me up to realize I'm not happy as a lawyer, but I would be happy working with people on this deeper type of level. But for a while, I felt kind of lost. Like, okay, why aren't I happy as a lawyer? I should be happy. It's a good job. Family, friends, question me like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you like being a lawyer? It's a good living, whatever. But I knew that I wasn't happy and it had to be something different. So I did a lot of soul searching, really trying to like ask my spirit, my soul, my higher self, what's next. And part of that drove me into wanting to do more volunteer work, just to try to find some ways to serve people doing things that I was interested in. So I would go to these nonprofits and do motivational speaking, and then started doing like pro bono life coaching. So again, helping people again reach their career and life goals. And that helped me realize this is something that I would really like. And also at the time, just this process brought up my own anxiety, stress, confusion, and decided I should seek out my own mental health, my own therapy, and really found that to be a valuable process. But I was still, as you mentioned, I'm 29, and I'm like, if I want to be a psychologist, I got to go to school basically for another 5 or 6 years and put everything on hold, really, like, finances, career, pretty much family. So I was like, this is a big decision, but just really felt like in my heart, my mind, and my soul, it was the right thing to do. So yeah, at 29, left the law career and pursued a PhD in psychology, and now work full time as a licensed psychologist.
And of course, Matt, everybody in your family, everybody down at the golf course, the private clubs where you bought your Rolls Royce car, he did what?
Yeah.
Being a lawyer, and he
Yeah.
went back to school.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think, a lot of people hear the story about, yeah, I quit my job and I went back to school to do something I want. First of all, congratulations, because most people endure in their jobs. They don't like them. And the question is like, why are you doing it? But they answer themselves when they're like near retirement. They say, I should have been, I wanted to drive trucks all my life. I should have done that. I love big trucks. Well, instead of being a surgeon, you should have been a truck driver. What can we say? But the point being is, I'm making a little fun there. But the point being is that, yeah, I mean, let that sink in. This was a man who was a lawyer. He was established and he was doing well. And then that restlessness of the soul. You were on the wrong track. You just needed to shift over, but you had to go back to school. So, I tell you, a lot of people are on a spiritual path. This is what happens. You give up everything for your life this way, and you go and you help everybody that way. So you found your path. Congratulations. You don't need to say it. You don't hear me. You don't need me to say that, but I'm going to say it anyway because I know how tough that would have been. Are you doing okay now? I mean, how do people get a hold of you? I guess you take clients on and you do lectures, I notice, and counseling. How do people get a hold of you?
Oh, well, yeah, sure. So, I mean, probably the best way is to, they can email me. My email address, this is through my blog, editor at spiritualmediablog.com. Yeah, Spiritual Media Blog is there. So editor at spiritualmediablog.com. I mean, I do have a private practice website, welshcac.com. So if they're interested in the counseling and the psychology part, it's welshcac.com. But either one is a good place to find me. They can email me. But yeah, I'm doing well now. I working as a psychologist full time, and um, primarily doing a lot of also more integrative, holistic type of psychology. For example, I try to integrate biofeedback, clinical hypnosis into it. I never push spirituality on people, but I try to create space for those conversations. So it might just be as simple as asking someone, do you have any religious or spiritual beliefs? And if they say no, then, that conversation's over. But if they say yes, then at least, they know they have the space to talk about those things. Because sometimes people come to psychologists and they don't want anything to do with spirituality. But other times it's nice for them to know that, at least they'll have somebody to listen to them talk about those things.
Oh, okay, just a second. Oz, we have a little tapping in the background there. Maybe your mic's open. So let's go to a quick break, and or if Oz has some questions, let's go to the questions now.
Yeah, we can go to a question. Yeah, I'm not sure where that's coming from because I'm behind the scenes. So, yeah, we got a little clicking. So sorry about that, everyone. We have a question from Carrie, and the question is, from your experience in education, what do you find needs improvements in the system?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, the first thought that runs through my mind is I would try to ask yourself, how can I contribute value to other people's lives? I mean, what can you do? What sort of impact can you make in your circle of influence, your family, your friends, your community organizations, your nonprofits? What are ways that you can get out there? As far as like systems approach, I mean, my bias is towards mental health. So anything that they can do to help provide greater access to mental health services. It's extremely hard, even with insurance, to get access to a psychologist. So if there's things that health insurance companies can do, actually, I'm currently living in Illinois, and they have made changes where they've made it easier for people with insurance to get access to mental health. So stuff like that, anything they can do with that, I think it's something from a systems level that can help.
You got another one, Oz? Thank you for the question.
Wondering what's the best way for someone to help out in those areas? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Um, Again, I would look at, what's your circle of influence? Because, I mean, there was a time when I was between lawyer and psychologist where I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was out of a job. And so I just asked myself, you know, how can I be of service to other people? Or if you want to ask a grander question, how can I contribute tremendous value to the world? And, take some time to really think about that. Maybe go for a walk in nature or do whatever sort of meditation, prayer, or yoga practice you have, and then get a journal out and write that question. How can I be of service to other people? How can I provide tremendous value to the world, and see what comes up? I mean, if you're looking for very practical answers, I would try to find a nonprofit or a volunteer organization and spend 1 or 2 hours a week volunteering. That's what I started doing. It was an organization called Dress for Success, where I was just providing free career coaching, and I had no greater expectation other than to try to help other people find more meaning in their careers.
Would you think that people, with what's going on social media, the conflict between both sides of the aisle in Washington, is adding to an overload of stress? I mean, in your practice and what you see
Uh,
people, is there
um,
is that like a root cause of stress, social media and politics?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a root cause, but it's a huge influencer factor. I mean, so yeah, I started doing therapy 15 years ago. I would say the first 5 years, no one ever talked about politics. The last, 10 years, it's increasingly escalated. This past year, I mean, people will just come into my session just talking about things that they hear in the news. So this really does prevent really unique challenges psychologically. So number one, you made a great point in your monologue. If you're seeing social media and you're getting triggered, if there's some practice you can do to regulate your central nervous system, whether that's like a breathing exercise or going outside for a walk, something that's going to calm you down so that you can be more conscious in your reaction, that's the number one thing you can do. But I also want to validate that these fears and anxieties that people are experiencing are valid and legitimate. Without getting too deep into the political nature, I just want to at least validate that, there are actions being taken that are making people fearful of their survival or their friends or their family's survival or mental, physical well-being, and that's a legitimate concern. And so if you're feeling fear, anxiety, or anger, those are valid emotions to be feeling, and I would not want to minimize or dismiss those.
Yep, we got a question from Carrie on YouTube. Do you see or are you having more young people with mental health issues come to your practice, or do you work with the school system? It's a hot topic in the schools today.
Yeah, so it's a variety. So I mean, I have a private practice. I also happen to work for a Veterans Affairs hospital, and so I see people of all ages. They range from people in their 20s to I have people in their upper 80s. But I mean, I think young people are becoming more accepting and tolerant of getting mental health. So there's a little bit less of a stigma or taboo associated with therapy with younger people as there is with older people. So you might have, I think there are more younger people who are trying to get access to mental health now. And their stresses are higher. They're dealing with certain stresses and anxieties also.
How about people who are bullied and become suicidal? Is that on the rise?
Certainly, suicide is. I mean, the bullying definitely is a legitimate issue. And so, I mean, I don't know the exact numbers or the rates, but I mean, yeah, I mean, the concerns about suicide, I mean, those are very legitimate and real. And I mean, I do deal with people who are having suicide ideation. I mean, probably on a weekly basis. I mean, when it becomes more serious, I mean, there are at times people might need to be hospitalized if they're having, plans or if they're planning on acting on that. So, I mean, thank you for asking that. I can certainly answer any follow-up questions. And if people are having those thoughts, they should dial 988 or dial 911 or go to a hospital.
What part of the world are you in that they could do that?
I mean, right now I am in Chicago in the United States. So probably the best bet would be to go to a hospital and go to emergency room and tell the emergency staff that they're having thoughts of suicide, especially if it rises to the level where they actually have a plan to do it.
So the obvious question is some people feel embarrassed about it, and they worry about the men in white coats come running around the corner and try to wrap them
Yeah.
up and take them away. Should they think about that, or should they just, that's not true?
So, I mean, certainly there is still a level of stigma and embarrassment related to that. But I would say, your life is worth it, your safety is worth it. So, if you're if you are, or you know someone, you should, go to a hospital, or or call a counselor or a therapist, to get the help that you need. That help and that safety is more important than any sort of like embarrassment or shame that you might feel.
Okay, well, let's take another break and we'll get you to talk about how people can come to see you and where in the world you are so they can, come to your office. Or I guess you do everything online. I mean, like everybody
Yeah.
else. So let me take that back so they can get a
Okay.
hold of you. So there's still some clicking in here. Maybe somebody's typing or something, but the long and the short of it is we apologize for the clicking, my friends. It's in there. We're not, Oz is working on it. You can see the beads of perspiration coming down from his forehead with how hard he's working on this. I'm joking, of course. Well, let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Ready for the future? A future filled with challenges, changes, and opportunities? Discover the New Earth by Douglas James Cottrell, PhD, a groundbreaking guide to understanding the evolution of our planet. Learn how to prepare yourself and your loved ones for the unpredictable. With insights from the Akashic Records and quantum meditation, this book offers precise predictions and practical advice. Explore how geographic areas will be affected and become a co-creator in shaping the new era of our planet. Over 370 pages of essential knowledge. Secure your ultimate guide to the future. Order the New Earth today.
And welcome back, everyone. My guest tonight is Dr. Matthew Welsh, and his website, the one I have here, is spiritualmediablog.com. To get a hold of him and to find out if where he's talking or doing a lecture or how to have a consultation with him. So, Oz, we have some more questions from the audience. I encourage everybody, send them in by email. The Soul Report Live at gmail.com. The show's delayed a little bit. When you email us, you get the questions to us right away. There it is, the Soul Report Live at gmail.com. And we will take your question about tonight's show and about our guest. Oz?
Yep. Yeah, got another comment here about online cyberbullying is rampant in middle schools and high school level. Yeah, I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Absolutely. I have a 4-year-old son, and it makes me nervous that someday he's going to be like on social media. So, that's definitely a fear and concern. And so, anything you can do to, provide, I guess, at first awareness and support if you're experiencing that bullying, to at least to validate that whatever sort of reaction or emotions that they're feeling, that it's normal to feel scared, anxious, angry. And then, step 2 would be trying to get them some help for that. So, trying to reach out to seek counseling, or if it's a true threat to their safety, you would want to contact the authorities or talk to the school or try to find some way to resolve the conflict. It's a legitimate concern. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
I'll put in my 2 cents worth. As a parent long ago, my children were being bullied, my youngest son, and I noticed that he didn't want to go to school in the morning. And I knew after the school bus went by, we lived in the country, all of a sudden he was well and coming down for breakfast. And the pattern was repeating. He was listless. Friday was here, the weekends were wonderful. Sunday night, going to school Monday, he was sick, or, sick to eat. And then my youngest son was big and strong, and he was about, somewhere between 8 and 10. So I was observant, and the pattern of his routine changed. And he was reluctant to do things about going to school or even playing with his friends. The solution was we went into the school, and this is a tip if you're a parent. In your mind, you have the solution that you want. Get my son out of this class and into another class. Make arrangements to get him out of that school into another school. Get arrangements for a professional counselor to figure it out. Something, you have that solution in your head before you go in. And if you keep it in your head and you talk to the principal or the counselor, they will come up with the same answer. You know what, as they said to me, why don't we take your son out of Mrs. Battleaxe's class and put him into Mr. Handsome athletic teacher's class? That's what happened. The teacher was bullying him. She was a grumpy old battle axe, and she was probably picking on a few kids. But as soon as he went into the male teacher's class, boom, his marks went up. He wanted to go to school. So my 2 cents worth here in answering the question that this was a really good one is that be observant of your child. Don't slough it off or don't get busy and not pay attention. Don't ask questions and don't go direct questions. Just be observant and you'll find that you'll get the answer yourself. And then you have to have the solution in mind, whatever. I mean, maybe there is no solution, either go to complain to the principal. But anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. That's a question. Sorry, that was a solution from years ago, but it's still valid today. The only trouble is the children sit in the room with those blue faces, right, looking at their iPads, and you can tell by watching them. I watch if they're happy, if they have interaction with. I don't know how my granddaughter does it. She talks to 6 girlfriends, and they're all talking at the same time, talking, texting, whatever. And I'm just going like, oh my God. But okay, bye. I'm back. Hi, blah, blah, blah. And they're happy. They're happy. So from Grandpa, that's my 2 cents worth. And if you got children, pay attention. Do not ask the question like, what's wrong? They will lie. How's school going? Oh, it's okay, but I got a tummy ache again. Something's going on. Don't make a big deal of it. Quietly investigate. Okay, another question, Oz.
This is just, I don't know, a comment. You know, it seems like bullying has been in school since the beginning, and I know there's a lot of attention put on it this recently. Do you think, recently, last 10 years, whatever.
Forever, Oz. Forever. I
But
was bullied in school. Like I took my
well,
own.
that was going to be my point. We were all bullied in school on some level, I think. But do you think maybe because of social media, it's more noticed or more prevalent or something like that?
I think there's a couple reasons why social media makes it worse. One, it's 24/7. So, when I went to school, I'd go to school and I'd come home, and I back then there wasn't social media, so I didn't have to worry about getting online. Well, now you can get online 24/7, so you're constantly being exposed to other kids' comments. So that's one factor. The other factor is it can be anonymous, so you can create a fake profile and bully someone. So not only do you have the anonymity, but there's no accountability, or it's much harder to hold somebody accountable. And third, the internet, it can create forums for hateful speech and hateful groups. And so, yeah, I do think it has added complications.
Well, the First Amendment says free speech, but it doesn't mean that you should be slandering, bullying, lying about people. And for my audience, we know about karma, spiritual accountability, and bad things have consequences. If it's any consolation, I have talked to people who were the bullies at school. They regret every day that they made some young lady's life miserable. They regret, and they can't undo it. Again, it's a rite of passage, some people would say. It's how to deal with people. It's how to have that intestinal fortitude. But the people who have been bullied usually go into the healing arts and they help people because they've been bullied. I'm not suggesting that that's the way to do it. I'm just saying it's an observation that I've had. So if it's any consultation, And you think those people back in grade 6 or 10 or 8 or high school got away with it? I assure you that they regret it, and I assure you that their children, by the cosmic swing of the pendulum, are being bullied. And now they're dealing with a child that's being bullied to find out what it's like on the other side of that karma window. Anyway, just to give you some peace of mind, my friends, God said, don't get angry. I'll take care of it. Okay, then you have to be patient. That's another question. We have a few more minutes in the show, about 5 or so.
Question about what kind of problems do you treat or do you handle at your place?
Um,
I mean, is there specific categories,
Sure. Yeah, it's usually anxiety, depression, work stress, and then some people it's also like drug or alcohol use, PTSD, trauma, or just some relationship issues. So those tend to be the main things that I see.
Yeah, and
That's a lot. That's a
what
lot.
modalities do you use to treat people? Or I guess maybe it depends. Yeah.
It really depends. I mean, use a lot of tools with clinical hypnosis, with biofeedback. If people are not interested in those modalities, then it might be more like cognitive behavioral therapy. So, like taking a look at, what are your thoughts? What are your behaviors? How can you change your thinking or your behaviors to change the way that you're feeling or the outcomes you're getting in life? But if people are open to biofeedback or clinical hypnosis, I've seen some really good results with that.
Are those effective for people who are healthy?
Um,
Use those?
Absolutely. So, are you referring to hypnosis, or when you say are those, which ones are you referring
Yeah,
to?
well, like hypnosis or even biofeedback. I mean,
Oh, absolutely. So, I think that's one of the benefits of. So, hypnosis can be used for a lot of different things. For some people, it's just about improving performance, focus, confidence, or maybe getting in touch with your you know higher self or your deeper wisdom. So it doesn't have to be anxiety or depression. It could just be like self-improvement or personal growth. And similar to same thing with biofeedback. The biofeedback that I do is really focused on learning to regulate the rhythm of your heart rate in order to experience lower levels of stress, greater energy, greater wellness. So for some people, they do that more for performance reasons or just to, as an adjunct to enhance mindfulness or meditation skills.
yeah, there's a question. Do you do EMDR?
What a great question. I do not, but I've heard really good things about that. So, if you're thinking about doing it, then I would say go ahead and do it. I've heard it really is helpful for trauma and PTSD.
What is that?
What is it?
What is it?
So it has to do with like desensitizing a particular memory to a trauma. So if you have like a trauma, they bring that memory to the surface, but they have some technology or tool that you look at with your eye, and it has some like blinking light.
Make your eyes
Yeah,
make your eyes go back and forth like.
yeah, and it's like essentially it's kind of like reprocessing or desensitizing like the brain's memory of the trauma. So then when the memories surface, it doesn't cause as great a level of pain or suffering. So it it works. Yeah, it works really well. I mean, I don't do it, but I've heard good things about it. I try to do similar things with hypnosis, and then even more just like exposure type therapy. But yeah, EMDR is great.
I heard back in Vietnam days when people came back from war and they had these horrific deeds that they had done, and they were having this post-traumatic syndrome stuff that wasn't really known at the time that way. But I heard about this technique, and it was like in erasing the memory. It was a white ball or something, and application. They were going back and forth, and the person was like a rubber on the end of a pencil. It was erasing the memory.
I,
That,
There's people who can do some pretty great work with stuff like that. You're really trying to help people change the way they're experiencing the memory, like desensitizing it or like reprogramming it, pairing it with another positive image so it doesn't cause the nightmares or the flashbacks or the pain that it causes.
good
Yeah.
question. What do you do to relax yourself? You're dealing with, I'm not going to say really difficult cases, they are, but what do you do? How do you rebound from dealing with, it's like a fireman going to fires all the time.
Oh, yeah.
How do you regroup?
That's a great question. So I really like Yin yoga, yoga nidra, my own like guided meditations, guided relaxations. I mean, now it's great because you can find pretty much anything on like YouTube or Spotify, so you can just look that up, or just more like traditional meditation, just to try to sit in silence and try to quiet my mind and like get away from all of that stimulation.
How about primal yell therapy? That's a blast from the past.
It is. So, I mean, most mainstream psychologists and probably my teachers would be like, "No, don't do it. Like, you get in trouble." I believe it or not, I've actually tried it myself. I, I think it works. I mean, there's been times when I've been really stressed and I'm driving down the highway, I roll my window down and I just start screaming and it kind of lets some of that emotion out. But I don't usually recommend that just because not it's not really considered like a most mainstream psychologists don't really recommend it, but I've done it myself and it helped. So you just got to be careful where you're screaming. I wouldn't do it when other people can hear you.
But back in the day, that was pretty big. I'm talking the 70s now,
Yeah.
everybody. So, yeah, listen to Dr. Matt here. He's words of wisdom. Oz, another question or two?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, how about rage rooms? Is that good? Is that
Man, I mean, I don't know the research. So now you're asking my, my personal opinion. I, I, I'm hesitant about that because I think, I mean, the name itself, rage room. So you go into it, you're getting your anger up, you're getting your rage up. So it's just going to kind of make you more angry. But on the other hand, if it helps you release some of that anger or that rage, then, maybe for some people, I might say, go for a walk instead, like sit in nature. So I don't think I would recommend rage rooms because I think it would just make you more angry. But if that's how you release the anger, maybe if it works for you, you can try it.
I'm kind of on your side, Matt. You want to bang your head on a wall to try to make yourself feel better,
Yeah.
but I don't recommend it. I mean, I haven't heard of that before, Oz, but I'm siding with Matt on this one.
Yeah, they're very popular. I see them all the time
Where do you see them?
advertised.
Are
I
they
advertise, yeah, on
what do people get
Groupon,
together in the park and have a rage party or something? Or
I I
got them around. You see them sometimes in the shopping mall, strip mall. There'll be one there. Yeah, I don't
really?
know if I could get mad enough to go in there and smash a few TVs. Uh, but they have enough business, I guess.
I could never figure that out, Matt, where people would get so angry they said, I have to break something.
I typically don't recommend that. I mean, I think, if you want to engage your body, you can do breathing exercises, walking, yoga, tai chi. I mean, those are great ways to kind of release the anger by moving your body. So yeah, I would be hesitant to recommend a rage room, but maybe it works for some people.
Maybe slip down to the gym and join a boxing
Yeah,
team or a kickboxing team.
yeah,
And
exactly.
once the rage gets kicked out of your head gets banged around, you might change. Decide
Yeah.
to change locations for therapy. I think we have time for one more question. Oz, we have one more question?
Yeah, what's on the frontier? What do you see coming? What's new? Is there any new types of treatments that you see that might be coming down the road?
Well, So I'm really biased, but I think that when more people hear about clinical hypnosis, they will really see that that's creating more results. Also, more mind, body, spirit approaches that integrate, the mind, the body, and the spirit. I mean, those approaches they're now starting to do more research with. So again, that might just be, I mean, meditation, yoga, mindfulness, and then integrating, more practices like those. That's what I see, but that's probably just my bias.
I know everybody's thinking right now, so Matt, what about AI? Can that help?
Oh, that's a great question. So I get that a lot, and that's even coming up with some of my patients. So I would say for people who have like unstable personalities or drug alcohol use or potential for harming self or others or psychosis, I would really avoid AI. It's not for people who are prone to like alternative type distorted realities or broken personalities. If it's more just like, okay, how do I fix my toilet? Or, I need a new, like, it might be good for like house projects. Or if it's maybe like mild stress, like, what are some good ideas to manage burnout? And you've got if you're pretty high functioning and pretty well intact, maybe it would give some, useful tips. But it makes me nervous, that makes me nervous.
Do you think maybe we could have some new types of, mental problems due to AI? I know there's a lot of people that are dependent on it, and they talk to it all the time, like their friend. They have these AI bots that I saw an article where this guy was taking his AI to dinner
I,
with him.
I,
You know?
yeah, no, I saw another
Well,
article where someone had married their AI bot, and so
that person has a serious problem.
yeah. So I mean, I think they have. Some people are talking about like AI psychosis. So you've kind of created this alternative reality that you think is real, or like you've created this relationship that you think is real, and it's not. And that again, that makes me nervous. I mean, ultimately, you know, I would just say if it's hurting your functioning and it's isolating you and it's taking you away from your daily responsibilities, I mean that all of that makes me pretty nervous. But I mean, at one time I needed an eye mask to help me sleep, and I asked ChatGPT and it gave me some good recommendations, so it's not all bad.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, the guy was asking his AI chatbot, what should he have for dinner and what would they like? And
Yeah.
oh well.
What would that person do if there was a power outage
Oh
for a day?
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
I think dependency on anything, Matt, is a problem, no matter
Right.
what it is.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's been great having you on the show. How can people get a hold of you again?
Probably the best way is through my blog's email, which is editor@spiritualmediablog.com. That's editor@spiritualmediablog.com. That's probably, and they can visit my website too. That's probably the best place to learn more about me.
Okay, well, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show tonight. And everyone, thank you very much for asking your really intelligent and stimulating questions. We appreciate you participating on the show. Please subscribe to our channel. Please like us and send your comments to the Soul Report Live at gmail.com. We're open to your suggestions and ideas. We'd love to hear from you. Tonight, we were talking about Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King and the nonviolence practice that they had. Remember, nonviolence is not merely the absence of physical harm, it's an inner discipline. You're on a spiritual path, my friends, and practicing Practical spirituality is a daily event. It requires you to be aware, the ability to stay awake, grounded in human moments, designed to not lose yourselves. It is choosing not to disassociate, not to numb out, and not to surrender our consciousness to chaos. Remember, love is audacious because it refuses to cooperate with despair. It insists on seeing humanity even in those who are inhumane. Not to excuse them, but to refuse to become like them. That's the discipline. Love is the most dangerous force to injustice because it cannot be controlled, bought, intimidated, adulterated. Thank you for being on the show. Next week coming, we have Dr. Noah, who has been with us before. Dr. Noah St. John, best-selling author and thought leader who's helping people overcome their greatest fear of 2026, being replaced by AI. His insights will help us reframe fear into faith and action. So until then, my friends, stay awake, stay in the moment. Remember, peace of mind is the most valuable thing you can have in your life. I'm your host, Dr. Douglas James Cottrell. On behalf of my co-host, Jack Balick, Oz Behind the Curtain, we want to thank you for being on the show tonight, and we look forward to seeing you here next week, same time, same place. We're on all social media. Love to hear your comments and recommendations. So good night and good luck. And may justice, love, and peace rise within each heart listening here to our show. Take care, my friends. Peace and prosperity.